we'll try to build a ChatGPT replica. I think this is all you guys have signed up for. So there is one link that I have created where anyone can go and try this. So what I'll try to do is I'll just show you what is it that we are going to build today, right? And then we'll work from backwards, right? We'll try to build that step by step. So I already copied the link here. So you can see this is the basic ChatGPT replica, right? So just to make it clear, we are not going to imitate the UI of ChatGPT, but we are going to replicate all the basic functionalities, right? Let's say you can just go ahead and ask any question. Let's say, what is a volcano or something, whatever. So just like you chat with ChatGPT, so you can chat with this particular interface where you can get answers, so on and so forth. So this is what we'll try to build in the next 40 minutes of the session, right? So yeah, and like stay around. We have some exciting challenge at the end as well. So that I'll slowly introduce in some time. Right. So let us just try to start building this right now, right? So this is the basic screenshot of the ChatGPT, right? So this is basic ChatGPT screenshot that I have shared here. So here from someone, let's say you are using ChatGPT and this is the interface that you see, right? So what is it that you notice in this particular screenshot, right? So you can put your messages in the chat as well. So what is it that you see here? I think if I'm able to check some chats, I'll probably do that, but okay, there is some chat that I can access. Question and answer, right? Prompt, right? Great. So I think as you can see, there are like let us just try to unpack all the elements that are in here, right? So you can see that there is the question that is asked by a user here. Question by user. And you can see that this is the response by GPT that you see here. And right, and there is a box here that asks user for like user can type in the prompt here, prompt input. And are there anything else that you are missing? So you can just ignore these parts here for now. But in the basic UI, if we see, so what are the things that we are looking at? We are looking at a prompt input. We are looking at all the questions or the question that is asked by the user, and we are looking at the response by ChatGPT, right? ChatGPT, or here, whenever we are using ChatGPT, the default model is either GPT-3 or GPT-4, right? So let us just, I think we have already broken down the front end of the application, right? So this is what we have seen here. So this is the front end of the application that we are going to build. So in the front end, what all things we should have? We should have a user should be able to type a question, right? So I meant this particular part, right? The prompt input part. So what else can the user do? So user's question should be visible on the screen. So here, as you can see, okay. So here, as you can see, this is the user's question that is visible on the screen. And what else is visible in the screen? You can see that ChatGPT's responses are also visible, right? So ChatGPT response is this thing. So the front end is very clear. There is the first element, user's question should be visible. Second should be all the past questions. And the third should be all these things, right? So now we have now we have a clear idea in terms of what is it that we want to build in terms of the front end of the application, right? So now let us just try to break the backend also, break down the backend of the application as well. So any application that you develop, be it a low code, no code, or full code or anything, they generally have a front end and backend. So depending upon the complication of your application, you will also have a database layer or something. So we will not be concerned about this. So, but for this particular project that we are doing, we are only concerned about front end and back end. Front end we have already decoded. So these are the three elements that we want to build in the front end. Clear. So now what is happening in the back end here, right? So what I'll try to do is I'll just okay. I'll just try to read this part from here. Yeah. So I'll just erase this probably. Okay. somehow not able to use my. Okay, just a second. So yeah, like let us just try to bake the backend as well, right? So whenever you're looking at this particular application, what is it that you see? Okay, I'm just facing some, yeah, I think it's like. So let me just clear the front end part because we have already figured this out. So now let us look at what is happening in the backend, right? So whenever you are typing in a prompt here, you are getting a response by GPT. You are getting a response here. So is it magically appearing, or is there something happening behind the scenes that we are not able to see, right? So we are able to see the prompt and we are able to see the output or response. But essentially what is happening is whenever a question is asked in ChatGPT or something, the prompt is actually going to the model here, right? The prompt is actually going to the model and model is giving us the response, right? So in the backend is very simple. So whenever there is a prompt, so we are sending it to the model. Let's say if you are using ChatGPT, the model that we are using is GPT 3.5 or GPT-4, right? So in the backend, it is very simple. We have a prompt. The prompt is going to a model and we are getting the response here, right? So if you were to break down the backend of the system, so this is the simple backend. So this is the user input. This is the LLM. For this purpose, we'll be using GPT-3 or 3.5 and GPT-4. I'll also demonstrate how we can use Llama models in place of this thing. And this is the response that we are getting, right? So I think now we are fairly, like now we have a fair understanding of what are all the elements that we need to build a basic ChatGPT replica, right? So just to reiterate, these are the three elements that we need to have for the front end of the application, where user should be able to type a question, all the questions and answers should be visible, right? And if you look at the backend is very simple here. So there is a prompt, user types in a prompt that will go to GPT 3.5 or GPT-4 and we'll get a response here. So this is how the backend is working. So you can see this is how the backend is working. So now we have a fair understanding of the backend as well, right? So now that we have this basic understanding, so let us just try to build everything step by step, right? So how will we do that? So here, I think you can see a love shape here, right? So I think this was not intentional. This just came out to be like this. So here, we know that we have to build a front end and a back end for an application, right? And everything can be done using Python only. So there is no need of HTML. There is no need of CSS, JavaScript, Bootstrap. Nothing is required. So we'll do everything. The GPT replica that we'll create will be 100% Python. So we'll not be using any other language here. And for the front end part, the library that I'll be using is called Streamlit. Streamlit is again a UI interface. It will give us a very beautiful interface without using HTML, CSS, or JavaScript, right? And for the backend, what we'll try to use is we'll use Langchain. So Langchain is what? It's a Python library to help us use LLMs, right? So LLMs can be anything, right? The GPT models, the Llama models, and there are like thousands of other models. So Langchain will give us, a quick interface to help us implement the backend, right? So this is where we are at right now, right? So now, so far we have planned the elements of front end. We have planned the elements of backend. We have also decided on what is the tech stack that we'll use for this, right? So now we have the basic understanding clear. So is there any doubt so far till now? So is there any doubt in the basic understanding so far? I can just check the chat. Okay. No, yeah. So I'm assuming that there are, okay, there is something in the chat. Good explanation. Thank you. Okay, thank you. Thank you for that. So here, now we have all the basic tools necessary for us to develop this particular application, right? So now let us just dive our feet into it and we'll start building it. I think someone raised their hand. I think, yeah, go ahead. Or I'll just, okay, are the resources all freely available? So if you're asking about this particular code and the presentation, yeah, the ChatGPT API is paid. I'll show you how much it costs in a while, right? So I'll give you a response for that. You'll get an answer to it very soon. Right. Great. So I think let us go to the next part. So what we'll try to do is we'll try to build the backend first, right? So we'll try to build the backend, and once we have filled the backend, now we'll go ahead and fill the front end, right? So backend is very clear. What is the functionality that we want to imitate? A query should be sent to GPT, and a response should be recorded. So this is what we need to replicate in our backend. So here is the sample code using Langchain to do the same. Here you can see I asked a question to ChatGPT called when did World War happen? And here I'm getting the answer, right? So how many lines of code did it take? If you can count. Line 1, line 2, and line 3. Line 3 is just to print the output. So you can see that you can implement or use this model in 2 lines of code. So that is the power of Langchain, right? So whenever you are using Langchain, so you are able to implement everything in just 2 lines of code. So what you will do is from Langchain, import OpenAI. And from OpenAI, you will say that you'll just select the model that you want. Text DaVinci is another name for GPT-3 model. So don't confuse with that. So, and we are just printing the output, and this is what we get, right? So this is how simple it is to create a basic functionality, right? So, so what I'll try to do is I'll just try to show this in the code in the Google Notebook. And there are some, some problems with this approach as well. So I'll just go to the code and show you that. So let's say if you want to build this sort of an application, right? If you want to build this application, you need some sort of a code from somewhere. So this is the basic code that we'll be using for the application, right? So I think we'll just have, right. So here in the first step, what we'll try to do is we'll install the libraries that we need. So we will need Langchain since we are only building backend, like since we are only building backend right now, we are not, importing Streamlit or anything. So here we are importing Langchain that will give us a functionality to use these models. And we are also importing OpenAI so that we can access those models. So what you do is you can just go and press Shift Enter. So in this particular step, all the libraries that are required to build ChatGPT are being installed right away, right? So it will take a couple of seconds for this to, get installed. Right. So you can see that the libraries are installed and within 9 seconds. That is great. So now what you need to understand is whenever you're trying to use these models are not open for everyone, right? So these models are owned by OpenAI. And if you want to use these models, let's say if you want to use, let me change the color. Let's say if you want to use these GPT models, you need to take OpenAI's permission to use it, right? OpenAI's permission to use it or something, right? Permission is a very loose word I'm using for API, right? So you need to create a key from OpenAI's website to be able to do this particular operation, right? So what we'll try to do is we'll just go to OpenAI's website and create an API key that will allow us to use the model here. So let me go here. So here I've already pasted a link here. So you can just go to this particular, you can just go to this particular website. I think it's asking me to log in. So let me log in. Great. So I think this is what you will see when you go to this particular page. If you are not logged in, you can log in. So here, just click on create new API key. So I'll just say Pesto ChatGPT or something. You can name it anything you want, and just say create API key. And this is something that you need to preserve, right? So this is a secret, and you should not share it with anyone, right? So I'll delete this code after the session so that no one is able to use my key. So what you'll do is you'll just copy this, and what you'll try to do is here I have written some code to store the API key. So you can securely, so here it is asking for the API token. So all set, right? So now our engine is ready to do whatever we want, right? So we have loaded the models. So here you can see that we have loaded the models that we need, Langchain and OpenAI. And here we have loaded the keys as well. So now we are all set to use any model of OpenAI that we want, right? So let me go ahead and show what is happening here. So here, what I'm doing is from Langchain chat models, I'm importing chat OpenAI. I think I can improve the size of, I can zoom it a bit. Great. So here, as you can see, what is happening in this step. So first I'll run the query and then explain what is happening here. So here, what is happening here? So if you look at this, in the first step, I am from Langchain, I'm importing the chat OpenAI model, right? And from this, I'm telling which model I want to use. So I'm telling I want to use GPT 3.5 model, right? So here in this LLM space, I have loaded the model that I want. And in the third step, it is ready to use. So I'm just telling LLM.predict what is submarine, and it is giving us the answer, right? So what do you have here? You have a query here that was written. You are accessing GPT here, and we have the answer here, right? So I think this is wonderful, right? So we have the backend ready itself, right? So, but there is some problem with this approach, right? So whenever you are using this particular chatbot, it is giving very correct solutions for this, but you see that there will be a problem here. I'll tell you what the problem is. So let's say if you were to use the same backend that we have created till now, right? So I can just go ahead and ask who is the first Black president of USA, right? So it will tell me Barack Obama was the first Black US president. So now when I ask what is his birthday, it says that I cannot answer this question as it cannot understand the person that you are referring to. So what is happening here? So here there is a query and there is a response, right? And again, here there is a query and here there is a response. But this query and this response are not connected to these two. So that is the reason it is telling me that. So here it is very clear, right? I asked who is the first Black president. The answer is Barack Obama. But when I ask what is his birthday, it is telling me that it is not understanding the person you are referring to. So this is a problem, right? So whenever you're developing chatbots or something, you need to have a memory feature inbuilt in your bot. So whatever conversations that are happening, you should at least be able to remember them so that you are able to have a cohesive discussion with it. So let me just show you this error in the code as well, right? So I've put together a small piece of code here. So here I'll do the same thing. So here I'll ask the same question: who is the first Black president of USA? So this is the question that I'm asking. So it is telling me the first Black president is Barack Obama. He served as 44th president from this thing, which is correct. So now let me ask, when was he born or something like that? So it is telling that, I'm sorry, I need more context about your question. Who are you referring to, right? So here it is very clear that in the backend, so if we are just using this simple 3 lines of code, we will not be able to build a chatbot, right? So we need a system to store memory in place. So whenever I'm asking, let's say, what is the ideal situation, right? So I ask who is the first Black president, it should give me the answer as Barack Obama. And whenever I ask when was he born, it should directly give me the answer saying, okay, this is the date on which he was born, right? So that is clearly not happening here. So here is where we need to, get memory here. Okay. So now what you'll try to do is, now we are able to build the basic backend where we are able to give a question and we are able to get the answer, right? So now we'll try to give a memory to this particular chatbot or memory to this particular piece of chain. So how will we do that? So what you'll try to do is Langchain will give us an option to, choose the memory that we want, choose the chains that we want. So I'll just first run the code and explain you what is happening here. So here from the Langchain, we have imported the chat model, which is correct. And to actually, whenever you're working with memory or something, so here you have a basic query system, right? We have a basic query system that we have already built. So this is already built, right? So now we want a memory aspect. So from Langchain, we can directly import the memory component that we want, right? So now we have the query and we have the memory. To couple them both, we need something called a chain, right? So again, this might not make a lot of sense to you when you're seeing it for the first time, but trust me that this works, right? So we have a query system that we have already built. Now we need to impart memory to this. So how will we do that? We'll just import the conversation chain and we'll import the conversation buffer memory. So this is how we do it. Now let me just go ahead and execute this thing. So earlier what we were doing, we were just predicting. Let's say here what we are doing is we are just taking the LLM and we are just predicting what is a submarine and it is giving us an answer. So now what we'll try to do is we'll try to create okay, this text is okay. So now what we'll try to do is we'll use this particular conversation chain and ask it to predict. Instead of asking the query chain or LLM directly, we'll ask it to predict this. Okay, so here what is happening? I'm loading the memory, I'm loading the model, and I'm combining the memory and the LLM into a single conversation element or something like this. So I'll execute this code, which is working. And now let me ask it a question, conversation.predict, who is the first Black president of USA? I think this is correct, but the problem that we had earlier was that the bot was not able to remember things. So now just by adding a single line of code here, were we able to impart memory to it? So let us just check, right? So what we'll try to do is, let's say, maybe I'll just copy paste the question instead of typing it everything. So let me just ask the same question. So it is running, the first Black president is Barack Obama. So now let me ask, when was he born? So as you can see here, we get the correct answer, right? So it is telling us Barack Obama was born on August 4th, 1961. So it just works like magic, right? So we are just having to, add this single line of code. And the earlier we didn't have any memory part, and now we have the memory part here, right? So this is how the memory part works, right? So here, what have we built so far? So I'm just stopping this loop. So what have we built so far in this particular thing, right? So one other thing that you can see is you can just, all the conversation memory is stored here. So let us just see. So the first question was, who is the first Black president? And the answer is stored. And okay. So, and when was he born? This is also stored. So what is happening? All the questions that you ask and all the responses that GPT is giving is being stored in this particular element, right? So whenever you are asking any question, it has the context as well. So let me just try to summarize this very quickly again. So what did we do here? First, we have imported the libraries that you want, which is Langchain and OpenAI. And by using Langchain, we have tried to create a basic prediction LLM, right? We are able to ask it question. But the problem that we encountered here was the bot that we are dealing with didn't have any memory. It didn't remember what the previous conversations are. So again, Langchain to the rescue. What we have done here, we have imported the memory component. We have imported the chain component. And then we have added this line here. And now everything works very smooth, like a magic, right? So now I can just say that, so if I were to just say, so what we have built LLM query or something. We have added memory to it. And we have created a conversation chain. With this, I can definitively say that our backend is done. Right? So our backend is done now. So now before proceeding into the front end part of the application, so yeah, and someone asked me about how much it costs for this model. Maybe I'll just take it at the last, so that we are not breaking the flow. At last, I'll cover that aspect as well. Just if someone is curious, what they can do is they can just go and look at the billing usage and other parts, right? And you can just type GPT billing or something like that. So you'll just get a link where you can just see how much would it cost. So again, one thing that I wanted to tell every people is GPT-3 APIs are very cheap, right? Very cheap. So just to give a context, to generate the entire Harry Potter series, right? Harry Potter series is around 1 million words. To generate 1 million words, let's say equivalent to Harry Potter series, you will require less than $3, which is probably less around 220 rupees, right? So this is how cheap the APIs are currently, and it will only get cheaper going forward. So you need not worry a lot about the costing here. But yeah, I think we'll get back to it in a while. But for now, we can just say that we have completed building backend of our application, where we have built the LLM query and we have imparted a memory here. So yeah, I think we have done with the backend. So I think I'll just take a pause here for 2 minutes, I guess, and I'll see if there are any questions. So maybe I'll just open the chat. Okay, there are a lot of questions here. So maybe I'll take few questions and then can you please share the collab link? Yeah. So all the resources that I'm using in this particular presentation will be shared along with the PPT, along with the collab notebook and all the other codes that I'm using. So can we make an API call fetch using JavaScript? Yes. So Langchain is also available in JavaScript. So if you want to use Langchain in JavaScript, you can do it. And can we get the recording? Yes, you will get the recording. Can you elaborate the temperature feature? Sure. Can we do it on custom data? Okay. Fine. So, okay. So what is the temperature feature here, right? The temperature feature is just saying that it is 0.0. So if you just say the temperature can range between 0 to 1, right? So you can put it as 1.5, 0.6, so on and so forth. It's just the the variability, right? So whenever you put the temperature as 0 and you make a prediction, so it is more likely that it will give the same prediction always. So if you higher the temperature, more different the answers will be every time you use it, right? So whenever let's say you are creating some definitive applications for a single purpose, it's advisable to use temperature low. Let's say if you are wanting to create some creative applications where new responses or different responses are generally very good, so you can go ahead and increase the temperature as well. So I think I'll take the rest of questions in some time. So I think backend is clear, I'm guessing. So this is just a very simple backend, right? If you combine all these particular lines into a single piece, this will not amount to more than 10 to 15 lines, right? So now I'll show you how to build the front end in, again, 5 to 10 lines, and we will have the application ready. Great. I think backend is done. So now let's get to the front end, right? So now what do we see here, right? So if you just so this is the front end that you are trying to build here. So now we have the backend ready. So let us not worry about it for a second, right? So now let us just try to build the front end of this application. So in front end, you can see that there is a heading, there is a subheading, there is some chatbot which is ready to take the questions, and there is a query box. So let us just try to build it. And with this, I'll also introduce some quick basics of Streamlit, how to work. So here I'll go to my code editor here. So I'll just create a demo file. I think demo is already named. I think demo gpt.py. So first of all, let us just try to create the front end, right? I want something like this. So it is very easy when you're using Streamlit. The first step that you need to do is you just need to say import Streamlit as st, right? So now you can just say st.title, and you can just say ChatGPT Replica. So this is the title. I think we are already done with the basic front end already. So Okay, I think there is this. So now what you need to do is whenever you're running a Streamlit file, you just need to run this command called Streamlit run demo underscore gpt.py. So don't worry if you're not understanding this. This is something that you can quickly learn within an hour's time or something. So don't be concerned if you're not understanding some sort of syntax. I'm just wanting to show you how easy it is to build, right? So here I've just written heading st.title ChatGPT replica, and we have the title that is ready to go, right? So let us just try to add a subtitle as well, right? So let me go and say st.subheader. So I'll say made using Python Langchain and Streamlit. Let me just save it. I'll just refresh it, and we have this thing ready. So I'll just change the. Okay. Just make it a white screen so that things are same. Yeah. So as you can see, this is how easy it is to build, a heading of this thing. So what else are we trying to build here? We'll try to build some sort of a query box, right? So what I'll try to do is take the query box, and you just need to say st dot text input, and you say enter your query here and whatever is the query, right? And just so going back to this application, just refresh it again. You have this that is ready, right? So now we have the basic UI ready already, right? So how many lines did it take? 1, 2, and 3, right? In 3 lines, we are able to create the basic UI. So now let me ask it a question, right? So what is submarine or something like that? So you can see nothing is happening here, right? So whenever I'm pressing enter, but nothing is happening here. So why is it? It is because we have not built the backend of this particular application, right? So we have not loaded the models. We have not done anything so far. So that is why this is not working. So the front end is ready. The backend is ready. Now let us just try to connect them both, right? So what I'll try to do is just go to this collab notebook. So just copy everything that everything that is necessary here. So I want all these things. I'll just copy here. And we have this memory part that we have created. Let us just copy and paste it here. And yeah, I think this is good to go, right? And we have all the basic elements that are ready. And now what we need to do is whenever there is this text input, we need to trigger this particular LLM, right? So what happens is, like, whenever you're typing, let's say here you're giving some particular query, this is going to this particular input, right? So whenever what we want to do is whenever someone is typing something and pressing enter, so we want this to go to the chat GPT. So let us just try to do that, right? So let me just name it as a prompt. This is equal to prompt. And you just say if anyone presses prompt or something. So what you can try to do is you can just say response. Response is the thing that we are getting is equal to conversation is the conversation that we have loaded here. So you can just say conversation dot predict, and we know what the input is, right? So now we have the response, and in the next step, what we'll try to do is we'll just print the prompt and we'll print the response. Right. So what have we done here? We have the basic headings ready. We have copied all the backend. And whenever someone presses the prompt, we want to do these particular things, right? So let us just see if this is working or not. So now let me just refresh it again. Okay, it is saying that OpenAI key is not loaded here. So what you need to do is here I've copied everything, but I have not copied this particular part. So I'm not loading my OpenAI key in this particular notebook. So I'll just grab the code from before. So this is how you load the variables in here. I'm just loading the OpenAI key here. Done. So now let us just go and refresh this and see if it is run. So yeah, I think the UI is ready. Now let us just try to ask a question, right? When was World War I? So we see that the app is running here, and it is saying that when is the World War I and when did it begin? So we are getting the response, right? So here was the question, here was the answer, and so on and so forth. So now this doesn't look very good, right? So if you're looking at it, so there is a question here, the answer is displayed somewhere here. So we want to display something which is very neat as this thing, right? Very clean and crisp as this. So whenever there is a question, we need to be able to respond it in a chat format or something. What is, so let's say, when was World War or something. So we need some sort of an interface which looks very clean like a chatbot and not something that looks like this, right? So for this, what you need to do is you need to import something called Streamlit chat, right? So what you can do is Streamlit, I think I already have it. From Streamlit chat, you just need to import the message part. And just you need to do a bit of editing here. So I have already done it beforehand. So, okay. I've already done it beforehand that you can see here. So whenever there is a response, I'm just saving it somewhere here. So this code will be shared with you guys. So this is a very simple piece of code where I'm just storing all the inputs and showing them one by one, right? So if you look at this, the first 20 lines or the first 10 lines are exactly the same. So this is to create a UI. So this, how are we doing this? We are doing this with Streamlit chat. I think this code will be sent to you guys. You can explore it yourself. It's a very easy to and self-explanatory. So, so yeah, I think let me just summarize what we have done in front end, right? So with the front end, we have put a heading here. We have put a subheading. We have created a place for people to enter a query. And whenever there is a query, let's say anything, what is Chrome or something, I don't know. So this is what we have built so far. And just to give it a neat interface, it's actually very easy. If you spend 5 minutes on it, you can actually build this. So this has all the functionality of the ChatGPT in terms of it uses GPT models. It has the conversational memory, and this is something that you can prepare it on your own, right? And someone asked this question as to, can this be created on the custom data and all? Yeah, there are a lot of things that you can do along with it, but I think that is uh, uh, you can that is currently scope out of scope given the time frame that we have. But yeah, like that is very much possible. Maybe with the resources that we send you, I'll also send you a resource link to help you get started with it. So yeah, I think we have covered the basic implementation, right? So what have we done so far? We have understood the front end and back end parts, and we have built everything one by one. So, and again, as I've promised before, I think we are around 747 or something, and we have the basic version that is ready. So we have built the entire ChatGPT replica within, let's say, 45 minutes. So as promised, right? So now maybe I'll take some questions. There is one other exciting thing that I want to share, because how can we use, if you don't want to use GPT models, let's say if you want to use some other models, right? How can you use it? So that is something that I'll talk about. Till then, if you have any questions regarding this, you can just put it in the chat bot. I'll be answering them, and I will also cover how to use different models in the same bot as well. Right. Okay. So there are some questions. Can we get a screenshot or recorded recording will be sent? Able to see anything to the screen freeze? Okay, I think there are no questions. So I think, yeah, like I think I'll just cover the other part as well, and okay, there is someone in the chat. Can we use this for a specific business purpose? Yeah, of course, you can use this for any business purpose. But one problem with this is that, let's say if you are using for a business purpose, and so whenever you are using an API, right? So whenever you are using an API, you are actually sending data to OpenAI. You're sending your data to OpenAI. So let's say if you are working for a company where there is very strict data security or measures or something, so you may not want to use this particular models, right? So if you are if you are just wanting to explore and share some non-sensitive information, or maybe there is no data security need for that particular application, you can go ahead and use this particular bot. So but if you have any security concerns in terms of protecting your data or something, Now I'm going to show you how to, use this particular interface with other models as well, right? So what I'll do is, let's say there is Llama models that Facebook has released, right? Llama 2 models or something. You can see that Facebook has released their Llama models, just 2 weeks back, right? So these models are completely free. These models are completely free that you can download it to your own on your own computer and start using it, right? So again, downloading some model, and there is a lot of effort that takes to it. So what you can do is, if you want to use a Llama model, which is actually completely free of cost, so you only have to pay for the computation, right? So what you can do is, in this particular notebook, I'll show you how to use a Llama model, right? So the first step that you need to do is, you will need to go to a website called replicate.com. Replicate.com, explore all the models that they have, and you can select which. So let's say I want to use Llama 70 billion parameter model. Just click on the API. So I'm using for Python. So just click on Python, and you can just copy paste the code and directly start using it, right? So here, what I'll try to do is, and yeah, you can see the responses here. So I'll share this piece of code. So let me just run it, right? So we can spend 2-3 minutes on this. So even for this, we need to get a replicate API token. Replicate is nothing but a website that allows us to use these models without having to, go through the hassle of downloading or installing models, everything by ourselves. So to use the replicate models, again, we need to get a key. So just go to your profile here, click on the API tokens, and I'll just copy the token which is created. I'll delete it after the session. And yeah, I have loaded the replicate that will allow us to use these models, and I'll pass this. I think this is done. So Llama family includes 7 billion, 13 billion, 70 billion parameter models. So you might ask, where am I getting all these things from, right? Where am I getting all these things? So I'm getting these from here. So whenever you click on explore, so this is the code that I've copy pasted from here. Right. So this is the model IDs that I'm getting from this thing. I've essentially copy pasted the same. So just to show you guys, I've just put everything in a dictionary here. So let me just run this. So let's say I want to run with a 7 billion parameter model, right? So I can just say Llama model, so LLM model that I'm using is the 7B parameter model. And I'll ask the same question, right? Who is the president of United States or something? So we don't know whether it has a knowledge cutoff or something, but let us just try to see if it works. Okay, I think there is some issue with these. Okay, I think this is not working very well. So let me use the 70 billion parameter model. So here I've asked it to tell a joke, right? So let us see what joke it will tell us. So it's giving us some response, right? So this is how you use it, right? Let's say if you don't want to use, so the basic crux is not to, develop an entire model using this, but I'm just showing you how you can use. Let's say if you want to move away from the OpenAI models due to any concern, you can just go to replicate. You can choose the model that you want, copy paste the code, and directly use it. And I will also forward this particular notebook as well, so that you can experiment with this. So I think with this, I can probably conclude. I think with this, what you have done. Okay, I think we are at the end of the session. So yeah, this is how we build a basic version of ChatGPT. So just to if you want a quick summary of what we have built, I can just show you again. So the first thing that we have done here is, I'll just take a minute to summarize here. So the first step, we have understood, we have just tried to pull apart everything that is in the ChatGPT, right? So we have tried to understand what all things are there in the front end. We tried to understand what all things are there in the back end. And then we have decided which tech stack that we wanted to use. And we have finalized Streamlit for frontend, and for backend, we wanted to use Langchain. And yeah, so this is how we built the backend here. So for the backend, I think we have gone to this particular notebook here where we have where we have clearly understood how to build the backend. And then we have built the front end using Streamlit in few steps. And tada, then we are done with the ChatGPT replica. And we have also seen how to use different models as well.